What's up, everybody? We are now live, and this is it. Carcino for life. How you doing? There's a large issue that's been going on, people, that I don't think the world understands. I don't think that we all get how big the problem really is. Uncle Frank might see it because he's out near Marin City. There's a large issue going on. So we're going to talk about the real issue right quick. Let me just get some people in here. Start sending them notifications myself. I have to do everything I can because of all this nonsense. But yeah, we'll get there. Don't worry, we're gonna start. It won't take long. Trust me. Now, well, you got to understand something. There is a ton of inaccuracies that's going on in the world right now. I mean that endearingly too. There's a lot of different issues that's transpiring that people need to be aware of, that's actually functioning as we speak. Now, hit the like button, good people, because we need to actually let people know that you guys are real and not bots. You know, we back to doing nonsense again like this instead of covering the real issues. Now, we've noticed that in business, period, that they try to say, well, we want you to think about business and go in these directions. And this is the way a man should act and try to do and provide. We were just talking about these things on I think Kwame's channel. We were talking about what a man should actually do. We talked about it on One Crack News. Actually, it was One Crack News. We just did that on the last video about providing and being there. So what they've started to notice, which like it came out of nowhere, is that when people of color, mainly black, go in for an appraisal of their homes, they're getting almost 30% less, some 40% less. Another one, 27% less than what they're supposed to get on an appraisal. Why is that? Because that keeps the property value low. They'll sell it to someone else at a lower price that they want to live over there. You're not the denomination of the people they want. And they say, well, why is this problem happening? Who are they getting this from? This comes from the loan office. or if you try to refinance your home. And what that does is it keeps you marginalized. It doesn't bring money to the community. It doesn't bring any innate value to the property. You're actually devaluing what the property is really worth. And this is a growing trend. So what they started to do is something called whitewashing. And Marin City is a major part and place where that is happening a lot. But when they start this whitewashing, what has transpired from it? And what whitewashing is simple. They take everything out of the home that make it look like a black person or a person of color lives there. They take down the pictures on the wall. They take down anything that would resemble a black person was living in that facility. And what they would do after they take everything down is they would go team extra for life. Okay, thank you. What they would do after they take everything down is would contact a friend of theirs that might be white and say, "Hey, I need you to step in for me. Can you come to my area, please, and just stay in my house for the appraiser to come by?" And when that appraiser comes, they will give them a marked up price. Won't even take long. And they get a brand new price. Why is that going on? And it's not based on just one area. This is worldwide. This is happening. This is a major issue because how can you tell people like, hey, you got to do this, and when people are doing that, they're right back in another system they got to fight. So you got to whitewash your home just to get the respect a regular homeowner is supposed to get. Why aren't these banks brought up on charges and penalties? Why you don't hear about this more? It is a major problem. It's going on everywhere. It's not just one state. It's just not Marin City, but it's going on everywhere. Why isn't this issue covered more? I don't know, but I don't want you to take my word for it, because it's easy to take my word for it. I don't think that's fair. If people take my word for it, it seems like I'm almost like pushing that narrative or forcing it on somebody. I don't want you to take my word for it. Let's go here, right? Let's do it this way.
Of light, water views, a school right down the hill.
So the house used to end right here.
Owners Paul Austin and Tanisha Teague Austin knew it was worth at least $1.3 million based on a 2019 appraisal. But looking to
1.3
borrow
million.
as the housing market heated up, Paul met a new appraiser and showed her around.
And what was the number value? You open up that piece of paper and what does it say?
Oh, $998,000. So
Less than $1 million.
less than $1 million.
Less than
Which means almost $400,000 less than
Yes.
the appraisal you'd gotten a year earlier.
Yes.
And so they applied for a new appraisal, but this time
I'm going to guarantee that I'm going to get the appraisal that my house is supposed to get.
And in the United States, what is your best guarantee of getting the best rate possible?
Being white.
Being white.
So they worked to erase themselves from their own home.
All of our art, took that away, pictures of our family, anything that, would resemble that this home belongs to a Black family. Just grabbed it all, put it all in a shed, put it all away.
And they asked a white friend to stand in when the new appraiser arrived.
So this time you open the paper and it says what?
1.482.
Yes. $500,000 difference.
Imagine what that money can do for a family. That's seed money for a business. That's a second home you could rent out. That's college tuition. Now, imagine this whole community misses out on those opportunities. It shows that this is a far larger problem than this one address.
Now, as you saw that, right? Over $500,000 appraisal. Now, normally appraisals, it could be something that they see that you might need to take care of or fix that brings the home value down. There was nothing the appraiser found that was off that would make them think this is an anomaly. But why should this family have to go through that? Oh, Jay Black, that's not even the point. The reason why is there is no such thing as an old story. This is a continuous story. This is still happening. We just happen to have this on tape because the disparity was so bad. It was so gross negligent in what they did. They couldn't help but to do that. But they talked about redlining back in the 1950s. This was the only place, Marin City was the only place Blacks could really buy property. They weren't allowed to buy homes anywhere else. So they didn't have a choice. Now it's 2023, and we're still faced with the same iniquities that you're seeing right now in just that one video. Where is the outcry? Where's the public saying, why aren't we challenging these banks that are giving in the loans? Why are they getting to set the terms? And remember, I told you, you could start your own bank. And we went through that on the Patreon, on Casino for Life. I gave you the tips on how to start your own bank. And best to start off as a charter first to build yourself up and get your collateral up so that you'll be able to be in position to give out loans for people that resemble you so that you can eliminate this bias and break this system. But you can't be on the outside complaining about what's happening on the inside and just expecting the people on the inside to have a heart, to be fair. But over the years, it's gotten worse. It's gotten way worse. Well, let's listen.
Carla Duffy, a homeowner in Indianapolis, told NBC's Priscilla Thompson about using a similar tactic.
I met with two of my girlfriends. Both are married to white men. And I was like, okay, I need to borrow one of y'all husbands.
Her appraisal came back at double the value. A survey of studies of racial disparities in the U.S. mortgage market found that discrimination inhibits upward social mobility of minorities and exacerbates large racial disparities in wealth because home equity is crucial for building wealth. In fact, this community, known as Marin City, was held back for decades. When Paul's family moved here from the South to work in the shipyards, redlining meant it was the only place in the area where African Americans were allowed to buy a home.
The only place they were allowed to buy a home. And then to make it even worse, what makes it even worse, people, and I want you to hear it and understand it, what makes this situation stand out like a sore thumb even worse is the fact that all of these things they're saying to you, all of these things they're saying to you right now, that you're hearing probably for the first time, it's still going on. And this, we talking about the 1950s, where it was public knowledge they didn't want you to buy these homes. They didn't have to hide how they felt. Didn't you see the lady from Indiana and what she went through? They showed what she went through, the same thing. She said, I got two friends married to white guys. So I said, I need to borrow one of y'all husbands. And she got almost double in an appraisal. Because it's still happening. You see, that's the part that people seem to omit. They keep thinking, well, that was 4 or 5 years ago. It could be 25 years ago. That's still happening right now today. You think they fixed this problem? This problem is still going on till this day. (2021), Amelia Horshaw, I want to say Amelia Horshaw, a African-American woman, and what's that? Amelia Horshaw, African-American woman, married for 27 years to her husband, wanted to take a loan out of their home, and this is in Arkansas. They wanted to take a loan out on the home in Arkansas, and their home was listed as appraised when they went to get an appraisal at $783,024, whatever. And they didn't understand why, when they have done modifications and put about $20,000 to $30,000 and renovations into the home, that would increase the property value significantly. Their neighbors next door, who have significantly less, they happen to be Caucasian, their evaluation of their property was 1.2 million. And theirs were in the 700,000 range. This disparity confused them. Even their neighbors, who said, we've been inside your house and you've been inside our house. I can't understand why your valuation is so low. So they were talking about white lining and all of these different things, and decided to switch homes with their neighbor and have their neighbor do the appraisal. So they took down pictures of their family, had the neighbors bring over photos of their families and put them on the counters, hang them up. So when the appraiser came over for the second time, they saw this family. And guess what number they got in their appraisal? 1.4 million. That's 2021, ladies and gentlemen. 2021. Don't stop there. Whitestown, Indiana. Well, I'm glad somebody got a notification. Let's go here. Whitestown, Indiana. Yes, there are a lot of people moving outside of the United States. Even right now, we have a family member that's going to go to Africa to study abroad. They just going there to study for a while, but after probably living there, I don't know if they're going to come back. Now, yeah, okay, now let me get through this. Whitestown, Indiana. What's this? Erica Doberman and her husband have been married for 12. Yeah, Whitestown says it itself, right? Whitestown, Indiana. Wow. Right there, you don't get a home in Whitestown, Indiana. Whitestown, Indiana. I don't know if I should be saying the names. Let me say that. Married black couple, have been there. And this is March of 2022. Have been there in their place where they live. I know. Thank you for telling me. They probably finna pop an ad up every now and then. So just understand that that might happen. Don't mean we're gone. So just stick around. They just pop ads in every now and then now. It's a thing they do. Now, no, I've never been to Anna, Illinois. I probably drove through it and didn't even know it. And I don't think I want to stop in Anna, Illinois. But anyway, I don't know. You said you didn't get one yet? Okay, cool. They didn't show an ad. They didn't show an ad. So we can get right to it. Because normally they do. I just don't know. I just don't want people to miss the information and it comes in late. Anyhow, here's the situation. In Whitestown, Indiana, they went and got a loan from their bank. And this black family got their home. They've lived there for 10 years and wanted to, oh, okay. They wanted to make some renovations on the home. So they went to apply for an appraisal on the home so they could take a loan out of the house, and they wanted to add on and do more work to the house and actually raise the value up because there's been an uptick. Now, these two African Americans are business oriented. She has owned a chain of floral businesses from cards and flowers. She had one physical location in Indiana, and she has another Illinois in Whitestown, Indiana. She has two businesses. Everyone in the community knows this lady in the town. She's very much loved. Her husband, who's actually worked for the Department of Sanitation for the past 10 years. He and his wife has sponsored town events. And they were told they did not qualify at that time because they owned two cars or something. They had two cars, and one of the loans or something, one payment wasn't made on time. And they said, well, that's not true. We own our cars. All our cars are paid for. We no longer have a loan. They said, well, this paperwork hasn't been updated. So until it's updated, you cannot reapply for, which had nothing to do with it. They're very confused by this. So they asked their neighbors, and they said, that's ridiculous because we're paying on our loans. And he said, I don't even understand it. If you have the title, that should already be updated. And they've owned their cars for years. So they didn't understand why it was not up there. Come to find out, they had someone that wanted to buy their property. If they raise the value or get an appraisal on it, then they wouldn't want to sell the property. See, what Whitestown, Indiana wanted was this corporation that was coming to town. They want them to buy homes there. So if they say, well, if you can make this owner an offer and we'll keep the prices low, don't raise it for anyone in the community. So if you keep the homeowner price low and the price value down, people say, oh man, that's the place I want to live. Look at the rates. All right, they got the runaround. So what they did was whitewash everything. They had a white person come by, and they had an appraisal done, and instead of the home getting valued at $432,000, it was now at a price of $700,000. So they got way more than what they thought they were going to get in the appraisal, and that freed up a lot of money for renovations. Gregory said, Zillow and Redfin are liberal companies that know your race and underestimate your homes. We need to go after them. I have you can too. That's right. So these situations out here are real. And it's unfortunate that African Americans, even Latinos, have went through this. A Latino, a man who owns 5 different businesses, he has LLCs for a trucking business, a transportation business, a landscaping business, and other various titles of LLCs. He has 5 different jobs. He more than can afford to live in the community he does. His wife, she owns and works out of their restaurant that they both own in the town. And a lot of people know of her. Yeah, but Mr. and Mrs. Moreno were told that their home that they own needed some repairs. And then they can come in and they could get refinanced. And they couldn't get refinanced for a lower rate because they needed to have this work done. Because he owns a landscaping business, he also owns a construction business. They got there, they fixed it, did all the repairs. They got a new appraisal 6 months later, and it was for the same price. So they thought something was off. And talking to some of their people at work, one of their friends who happened to be white was pissed off and went to the bank and complained and said, why? When every house over in that area, you have given them the worst appraisal we've ever seen. And I will go to the news and have them do a whole special on this. And you would have to explain to them why. Unless you give them the proper evaluation, appraisal. They came out to that home again, did another walkthrough. Now, the home that they had is listed at $337,000. The appraisal they got the first time was $376,000, only like $50,000 more. Now that they came out and do another appraisal, it was worth $527,000. $527,000. How do you have that much of a disparity? That doesn't make any sense. That's too far off. Those numbers are dangerously far off. Oh, it's been like that for countless time. So it was always in this area where you see discrimination going on. But like I said, a lot of the times it's not covered properly by our media. But I want to highlight those that actually have went out and did the work, who actually said, we got to put this on television because this damaged communities. This is why schools they don't get the funding. This is why your neighborhood don't get your streets fixed, because they purposely low rate your property value and say, well, the property value's down. It's not a lot of money there. But once they move you out and do a proper appraisal, now the property value jumps up based on who moves into the community. And that isn't fair. So when we highlight that, and give it the proper light it deserves, then we see what happens, right? Let's take a look at this. All right. This is another one where they have to sue based on what has happened. They decided to fight and sue. He says, I'm from the Bay Area. We know this area well. This hasn't changed in that area and will never change. That's prime property. Marin City is where Tupac spent a few years. Yeah, I know. Exactly. So we are on this pedestal to do better as men. We owe that to each other to do it. And look at this. This person want to be seen. Is that what you want? You took something down to be nice. Boy, I tell you, people want their names and lights and say, look at me so much, don't they? You had your look at me moment, but you like to show pictures and talk about deceased women. So therefore, I'm sorry, sir. I just wanted them to see who's the actual person that was actually posting deceased women's photos and talking about them in a very disparaging way. 3 Black women who's deceased. You thought that was a good idea. That's silly. That makes you look ridiculous as a Black man. Now, and he thinks that's going to make people come follow him on his channel. Like, come follow me on my channel because I'm talking about deceased Black women and calling them the B word. That's what he offers. It's ridiculous. Now, let's get back to this. Thanks, Vince. See, we talk about real things here. Now, let's listen to what she had to say.
One couple describes their experience when getting an appraisal on their home, and they say that it was undervalued simply because they are Black. Joining us now are doctors Nathan Connolly and Shani Mott. Thank you both for being here. So let's just walk through the process here. The two of you were looking to refinance your home to take advantage of the low interest rates, and then what happened?
Well, we experienced discrimination. We made a pretty straightforward application to get our house at a reduced interest rate from 4.65% to 2.25%. And we thought we were in pretty good shape to be able to meet the mark. We had made investments in the house that exceeded, $30,000. We had seen the market on a steady uptick, and we had a baseline amount that was labeled as pretty conservative, both by us and by the loan officer at Loan Depot with whom we worked. And so we were very surprised to learn upon a drive down to Florida we were making as a family that the home did not come in at value.
I mean, it's important to know that when we first started this process, we looked at a range of loan companies. And one of the things that I really appreciated about Loan Depot was just how communicative they were. And I had lots of questions. I was trying to kind of go by the book and collect at least, 4 or 5 estimates and talk with people and see who I vibed with.
So then you go and get a second appraisal after, in effect, whitewashing your house. Give us a sense, first of all, what you did to whitewash your house.
Well, we were aware that there were examples of whitewashing being effective in helping Black families get the value that they were entitled to. And so we had to have a very careful conversation with our children. We knew that we would have to remove evidence of their presence in our home, evidence of our own presence in the home.
Because right from the beginning, it seems that you jumped to the conclusion, our house came in with this low appraisal simply because we're Black.
Well, I don't know if it was that we jumped to that conclusion. I mean, we certainly gave the representative from 2020 Valuations, Mr. Shane Lanham, a chance to do his job. I mean, when we were in the home during the first appraisal,
Right.
we made, light conversation with him. We certainly gave him free run of the place. We had some sense that discrimination was a problem, but we didn't expect that it would happen in this particular case. And so when the number came back at 472,000,
My jaw dropped.
Right.
I was like, this is racism.
right,
Because we had done the research,
Right.
right? It's aside from researching to try to figure out what the numbers would be for what we could sell our house for, I would ask a neighbor if they were in the process of refinancing, what did their homes come in at? And
Right.
so we didn't go into this in
Now, normally, if you had an appraiser on your home, they look like that. That is a prime example of what a home appraiser looks like. So when you have someone who appraises your home, this is what it looks like. %100%. Well, that's what they want, people. They want what they say. Do you want the smoke? Now, relax if they show you an what's up, ears? I see you. Right. They always say, do you want the smoke? The smoke is there if you want it. I can give you the smoke. It's like, okay, nobody's asking for smoke. We just want the answers. But you see, this is why most of the appraisers, why they look like this. This is like the prime example of what an appraiser looks like. It's not somebody who you would think that has been around people that look like you. Why is that? Those things are never mentioned. Right? Why is that? They never mention all of these things that are on the forefront. Now, see, they've heard about it because they've seen it work, and it's like, okay, it's like a thing that Black people, we all know, like, okay, we don't have to whitewash our house to be able to sell it. Why should you? How's that going to tear down my home value if I'm holding up a photo of my family on the wall? A picture of my grandmother and grandfather should not lower the value of my evaluation. So until they start actually talking about what's happening and transpiring here, this situation is going to continue. Let's listen some more.
Into this process, this refinance process blindly. Like we were educated consumers.
We did the whitewashing experiment, and even though we had already given Loan Depot comps that had reflected a value in the mid sixes or even higher, and we had been rejected, we left the whitewashing experiment to kind of be that final bit of evidence that we needed to be made whole.
So what did the experiment bear out?
Well, we had a white colleague meet the new appraiser at the door. They apparently had some light conversation and shared some anecdotes. It apparently was a pretty easy appraisal by the observation of our colleague. It didn't seem that there were a whole lot of questions. And the appraisal came back, I want to say, within the same week at $750,000. Which was
and your jaw dropped again, I have to imagine.
And it was just one of those moments where you're kind of like, okay, this is real. You know about the history, but to feel like we're very much part of that historical process of Black folk being devalued, of not being able to get a fair shake. And it also feels as though, frankly, we're at a moment where we need a new movement that is able to operate and be able to kind of distill this particular form of racism and really challenge it.
So despite this being your expertise, you still found this very hurtful.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting because there's a dilemma, right? Like you live a contradiction. Like there are things that happen in this country where you're like, things have progressed significantly. And you never think that somehow you would be the victim of discrimination. Like you're like, I play by the rules. I do all that I'm supposed to do.
The other thing that made it very challenging was 20 minutes after we had gotten the call about our home not reaching value, we had gotten a notification from one of Shani's doctors that she had a mass somewhere around her kidney or her adrenal gland. We didn't know. And so the process of trying to appeal the low valuation was actually simultaneous with us groping around for answers about her health.
Let me just say that I did this very resentfully. I kept thinking, what are we prioritizing?
Right, right.
Are we responding to Loan Depot ahead of my health? And so but I was like, this is something we have to do.
Right.
I'm curious how you explained all this to your children, right? Because there are certain experiences that you all are familiar with from enduring or studying yourselves. But then when you're trying to discuss with a younger generation about this is America, how do you go about doing that?
Well, I think it's important to note that the conversation that we had with our children was new in terms of this housing situation,
right.
But we make racial literacy a constant in our house.
Right.
We name power, we name Blackness, we celebrate Blackness. And so I think we just talked about it in terms of us making decisions to get what we deserve.
That's a key word there. Get what you deserve. Oh, thanks for the super chat. The cash app. Appreciate it. Yeah, you probably missed that video. I retired from the NFL. What's up? God forgives, I don't. See, you have clowns like this come up and say stuff like this because they just want attention. But we want people to see the clowns. Look at this clown on stage, just like the other clown that came up and said what? Get back to your original content. Stop faking. Now you see, how many times have I talked about stuff like this? You seen that? We got One Crack News. We have everything else. I wanted to highlight this because this is a growing problem that's repetitive. It's not being fixed. Now, they just named the company in which they sued, which is Loan Depot. And there's other people that are going through this in their own society, in their own neighborhood. And while he's laughing, the house you staying in, sir, your mama and daddy is paying for. While you down on the computer playing around, that's something your mama and daddy need to be listening to, this video. And while you laughing and joking, you're going to go through the same things, hopefully someday. You don't have to, but because of the color of your skin, you might have to be learning how to whitewash just to try to get over. But they're just like me. They don't feel you need to have to go through that. They feel this is a travesty. Why should you have to go through this? So they decide to file a discrimination lawsuit on appraisal. So they didn't just take the appraisal and go. They could have just did that. They decided to actually do something about it. They decided it would be best to do something about it. Oh yeah, I'll pin the Cash App. Sorry. For those who want to donate. Right. Everybody loves destructive behavior. They don't love to see anything that is real out here. Yeah, and everybody loves farmers, don't they? We love farmers. Bum, ba, da, bum, 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 bum. See, me, I happen to be very fortunate. Because I'm in USAA, it's always going to be a little different for me. I'm going to get different rates than what other people will be able to get. You know, we have Navy Federal, and that's a military bank. So, you know, you get better savings percentages on your money because not everybody could bank there. So I get entirely different rates. Absolutely. So let's listen to the rest of this.
Lastly, kind of a two-parter and unrelated questions, but Shani, I'd love to follow up on your health at this point and at the same time on your household, because what did you ultimately have happen with the appraisal?
Well, my health, God, it's been a long journey. I'm currently starting a trial at NIH on rare cancers because it seems as though the chemo that I was on worked for a bit, and then they put me on immunotherapy, and I just had a serious allergic reaction to it and had to take 3 months off. And now I am, hoping that this trial does something with the cancer, that the adrenal gland cancer that I have, because I'm not ready to leave this world. There's so much work to be done, and I am definitely ready to continue to love on my children, dream on my children, and educate them to be a force.
Relative to the house, one, it was important to, in some ways, get more photos of the family and kind of, reassert our place here. It was also, I think, important that we did, in fact, at least get a refinance that allowed us to bring our mortgage payment down. The market conditions did change. The interest rates went up, so it was not the same rate that we initially were supposed to be approved for. We had to change the terms of the loan by virtue of that from a 15-year mortgage to a 30-year mortgage. And so now we'll be, expected to pay an additional 15 years of payments on the property. And that means there are a whole host of things that we won't be able to do in terms of investments in, kids' college funds, being able to have equity, accumulate more quickly, just freeing up our income, in general. All of that has been lost through the actions of, a very small number of people.
Well, we thank you so much for sharing your experience. It was mouth-dropping to you and eye-opening, perhaps, for many others.
As you can see, this is continuous. So like I said, we just want everybody to be able to, have that same zeal for fight they do that for anything else. They'll fight for, oh, we gonna fight because I ain't get my check. We gonna fight because this thing is there. This is something you should be fighting for too. You want to fight for WIC and all that. This is something that's even more detrimental to you that you should be fighting for. Yeah, I know. A lot of us don't have these problems. Since when can anyone go to Navy Federal and get a Navy Federal account? When did Navy Federal become universal to everybody? That's never been the case. Yes, the one in North Chicago, close to where I live, sir, you couldn't even get to that bank without having a military ID to get on the base to go to that bank. Our family is military, so that's how I was able to get it. That's what they told me. If it's open to the public now, it didn't used to be that way. Yeah, I put the link in the chat for those who want to go in there and actually get in here and talk about it. You can. He said you do need referral. That's what I thought. I mean, you need something. You just can't go into a military bank. Well, it's a credit union. Yeah, right, but you know what I mean. Any credit union, you're going to get better rates anyway. That's what I thought. I thought, so what do I know? Mr. Martinez, I'm trying to understand what is your point that you're trying to make? If I told you I have Navy Federal and I'm USAA, why would you question anything that I'm talking about? Exactly. You must have to have somebody who's military in your family, right? Anybody who knows me already know that this is a moot point. It's like he's a troll and he wants attention. I didn't think this was like a big mystery, Scooby-Doo mystery, but I try to. But man, oh, we'll show one more. I want you to see this because now this is a little different. This is a little different. This family here is interracial. Yeah, things just got a little different up here. So now what do? Say you got his account over 30 years ago. Now, what happens now when it's an interracial couple? Let's find out.
To get an appraisal of their home in Jacksonville, Florida, hoping to refinance and pay down the mortgage. A home filled with books and photos and love. Her family.
Jacksonville, Florida.
But when the appraiser came, Abena was there and said she felt something unsettling.
It clicked in my mind almost immediately that I understand what the issue was here. Why did I let myself forget that I live in America as a Black person and that I need to take some extra steps to get a fair result?
The appraisal comes back. It is shockingly low. Even the bank couldn't make sense of that number. Coming out of the first appraisal, was it rage? Was it exhaustion?
It was exhaustion, I would say. This person is being so petty and hateful, and he's wasting my time.
So she decided to get a second appraisal with a new appraiser. Same house, but something different.
Hey, it's Abena again, and back with another edition of the things that we are taking down from our walls.
There are a few things in my house that are demonstrably Black. So clearly the pictures that we have all over the house with all of our family members, with my grandmother getting married back in the 40s.
We have the picture of Charlie Bolden, who's an African-American astronaut. Pictures of me when I was a baby. Black Panther.
We both put away pictures, and it's like, these are people I love. These are people I care about, and I need to hide them. That was very tough.
And then, of course, the primary thing that we did was remove both me and my son from the home during the second appraisal.
But when you're doing this, what does that do to the spirit?
It's crushing the spirit, of course. I'm ashamed of it. I'll be honest. I'm ashamed of the fact that my son will see that this is something that I did. I'm ashamed to say that I really wanted to refinance and pay off my house sooner and have full equity in my home. And so I was willing to put up with that indignity to do it because I knew it was going to be effective. So it was a combination of pragmatism and deep and profound sadness doing that.
She took down all the photos of her family, replacing them only with photos of her husband and his white family. And he is the person in the home when the new appraiser comes. And when the second appraisal comes back, the value of their house has shot up more than $100,000, a 40% increase.
It was primarily financial relief. I'm just glad that we're going to get the rate that we want. And then I think it was about 15 seconds later when the tears came, because we realized just how much more removing that variable increased the value of our home. To know just how much, me personally, I was devaluing the home just by sitting in it, just by living my life, just by paying my mortgage, just by raising my son there.
After she posted her story on Facebook, there was a deluge of comments and people who said they had tried similar experiments with similar results. Andre Perry, a fellow at the Brookings Institution, wrote the book Know Your Price. He studies the effects of discrimination in housing.
What we found after controlling for education, crime, walkability, and all those fancy Zillow metrics, that homes in Black neighborhoods are devalued by 23%, and accumulatively, that's about $156 billion in lost equity.
$156 billion in lost equity in the Black community. And you think there is no rhyme or reason for this? $156 billion. And now you see why this is a real issue. This is what you really need to be doing and really need to be focused on and paying attention to, because this goes into communities. They already know. They know, the majority of us don't know. Yep. So that is crazy. So on that note, we're gonna shut it down. And wow.